thank you guys for being here this morning, especially thanks to our partners. It's really important when you talk about an issue like that, this is you get as many people on board as you possibly can to try to understand, A, what the issue's about, what the effect is, and how it'll help Missourians. And I know that's why Governor Parson and I feel very strongly about trying to find a solution to MoDOT's funding problem. It's usually not something you hear Republican conservatives out talking about, but it's also something that we both feel kind of the less conservative position would be to know that there's this huge problem out there and just kind of turn our back on it. So we believe when you have an organization that hasn't had an increase in their gas tax in 22 years, it's tough to make ends meet. And when you combine that with the 7th largest system in the United States, it just is problematic to try to continue with a robust system that would provide safety for our families, by the way, which is our number one goal to come out of this. And then also the economic development advantages it has. I think you'll see Governor Parson later on today at a major announcement down in Miller County that we all worked very hard on with multiple people around the state, including the stakeholders of the company that are expanding down there. And that's one of their first questions is tell us about what we can rely on for transportation, tell us about the traffic flow, logistics, how are we going to get in and out of the plant, etc. And that's, quite frankly, every conversation when you're talking to an employer who's expanding or moving here. So safety is first, but obviously economic benefits, economic development, what we can capitalize on as a state. It was Missouri, especially with our freight and logistics issues that come through the state every day. I think it's really important to make sure we let Missourians know this is the opportunity to try to help solve all those problems. It is not a magic wand, but it sure goes a long way. And when we have partnerships like we have with MML and the counties and the School Boards Association, that's, tell us we're in a really good direction, because that's typically some of the partnerships we have in this coalition of people who are supporting this are not normally seen together. So you don't normally see AFIO and Teamsters along with the Missouri Chamber, for instance. And when you look at the Farm Bureau and the various chamber organizations and various companies and organizations that are supporting this, it tells us that this is probably a solution that might work. So we're hoping that Missourians will look forward to voting on Prop D. We hope they visit the website, safermo.com. I tell everybody that highway funding is a complicated issue, and answers are complicated, but on that website they'll find a lot of Q&A where they can find out what some of those answers might be, as well as a very transparent drop-down menu where you can find out your county and your city specifically what it would get out of this funding. As you well know, constitutionally, gas tax now and gas tax that comes into our constitutionally protected pot is split 70% to the state and 30% to the local counties and municipalities. So Missourians will be able to go on there and drop down and see what their county or municipality is going to get out of this after fully funding is achieved. We think it's a reasonable approach to implementing it over 4 years with the 2.5 cents a year until we get to the 10-cent total. While that's going on, it's about $1.25 to the average Missouri family a month, the 2.5 cents, and then once fully implemented, about $5 a family. And when you look at the wear and tear you're going to have in your car with roads that aren't quite smooth, it seems to be a good investment, along with obviously the number one return is the safety for your family. So I appreciate being here today. I know there's some other folks want to speak. Lots to talk about here, and I'll let others say a few words.
Thank you. We are here today talking especially about the local impact of Proposition D. Proposition D, when it's fully phased in over 4 years, represents a 66% increase in the funding coming from the constitutionally designated, regularly audited state road fund to local governments. And that is a huge impact for safety, also for economic development, also in helping the local governments with their infrastructure. First, I want to introduce Melissa Randall, Executive Director of the Missouri School Boards Association. We are at their facility today, and we appreciate her hosting us here today because school safety begins with safely getting the young people to classes on safe roads. Melissa.
Well, first, let me say thank you to Lieutenant Governor Kehoe for the leadership that you've provided on this important topic and that Governor Parson has provided on this incredibly important initiative for the state of Missouri. And as Scott said, school safety is is of the utmost importance, the highest priority for public schools. And it starts with getting our children to school safely. And in Missouri, every year, we transport 918,000 kids on Missouri's roads to our schools. Half of those ride a school bus every morning. We drive 129 million miles transporting kids on school buses every year in 12,000 buses. And they need to be ensured that those roads and those bridges that they're driving over, transporting our most precious asset as a state, are safe. And it was an easy decision for our state Board of Education, the Missouri State Board of Education, the School Boards Association's Board of Directors to unanimously support Proposition D. We had a delegate assembly where the representatives from every school district across the state who are members of our association had an opportunity to look at this particular issue, and they approved a resolution indicating that we felt like it was time for Missouri to invest in fuel taxes, and then our Board of Directors 2 weeks ago endorsed it unanimously. We feel like this is an investment Missouri needs to make, not only for our children, but for our citizens who are driving on our roads every day. And so it is a great honor to be part of this initiative, and we look forward to the passage next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. One of our great partners in this effort is the Missouri Association of Counties. They have longstanding support for increasing road funding in the state, and especially because of the constitutionally designated aspect of this funding, which is regularly audited under Prop D. It goes directly to local governments without going through any layers of the legislature or any kind of MoDOT bureaucracy under the Constitution. So I want to bring up Dick Burke, Executive Director of the Missouri Association of Counties, to talk about their position on Prop D.
Thank you, Scott. Good morning to everybody. Before I start, I would like to also thank Lieutenant Governor Kehoe and Governor Parson for their leadership on this very important issue. As Scott said, our association has had a long-standing resolution in support of Proposition D, and our Board of Directors unanimously endorsed it at our August Board of Directors meeting. As Lieutenant Governor Kehoe said, the state has the 7th largest state highway system in the country, with about 34,000 miles of road. But what you may not know is county government of Missouri is responsible for one of the largest off-system road and bridge networks in the country, with about 73,000 miles of road and over 20,000 bridges. So it was an easy decision for our membership to endorse Proposition D. As Scott said, that money is constitutionally dedicated by formula. Every county in the state will benefit. Every corner of the state will benefit, both rural and urban. And again, that cannot be diverted, and we're enthusiastically supporting Proposition D. It's an investment in infrastructure and public safety at both the state and especially the local level, and it's desperately needed. So I'm also pleased to stand with our partners here at the local level with the schools and the cities. Our partnership has been something that's been developing over the last several years, and we look forward to other initiatives like this being able to work together. So thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Finally, I want to bring to the microphone Richard Sheets, Deputy Director of Missouri Municipal League. Missouri Municipal League, the Missouri Association of Counties, and MSBA came together to create the Missouri Local Leaders Partnership, and it does represent more than 11,000 local elected officials around the country, in Missouri. And so that's a potent group. They help spread the word. It's great for grassroots, but they are also dedicated to local solutions that affect local communities. Richard.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Kehoe and Scott and everyone here. Cities maintain 2,300 miles of roads, and they have local bridges. Cities and local governments, cities and counties, they have the same concerns about inflation of materials and labor as MoDOT does, and that affects how they maintain and construct their local roads. 2 out of 3 of our citizens in Missouri live in cities, and they expect safe roads to get to work, to take their kids to school. They expect that. And that's one of the reasons the 640 cities of the Missouri Municipal League have endorsed Proposition D. That's why many of our city councils and boards of aldermen have passed resolutions in support of Proposition D, and that's why we have actively worked on this very important issue, because it brings important funding that is constitutionally designated for local roads, and we strongly support Proposition D. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. If you do the math, 34,000 miles of state highways in Missouri on that seventh largest state highway system, 23,000 miles of community roads and streets that the cities have, and over 70,000 miles of county roads. You do the math on that, that's over 90,000 local routes in addition to the state routes. That illustrates the job that has to be done, and it also shows us the funding gap, because we're 49th in the nation in funding provided by the state gas tax and diesel tax. But we have the seventh largest highway system and the sixth largest bridge system in the country. You can't keep up. Inflation has eaten away over 22 years at that static, frozen 17 cents a gallon. That 17 cents today, because of inflation, is worth about 7 cents of purchasing power. So it's lost 60% of its purchasing power. We need to do better. We've got to do better for Missouri's economy, and that's why we're asking for a yes vote on Prop D.